momentous occasion. I most respectfully welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. B.J.C. Pereira, consultant pediatrician, section editor of the Ceylon Medical Journal, and the joint editor of the Sri Lanka Journal of Child Health, to this August gathering. Your distinguished presence brings honor and dignity to this event. I wish to extend a warm welcome to our orator today, Professor Mohan De Silva, Emeritus Professor of Surgery and former Chairman, University Grants Commission, Sri Lanka. Dear Sir, your honored presence today adds glamour to this event. I respectfully welcome Professor Saman Chandana Ederiveera, Deputy Vice Chancellor of the University of Ruhuna, Council members of the University of Ruhuna, Deans of other faculties of University of Ruhuna for gracing this occasion. At the same time, I warmly welcome directors and deputy directors of Teaching Hospital Karapitiya and Mahamodara as special invitees of FMAS 2021. I warmly welcome Professor Rifti Mohideen, Professor Suranjit Seniviratna, Professor Terence Madhujit, and Professor Shehan Williams, esteemed speakers of our symposium today. On behalf of the organizing committee, I welcome all the members of the extended faculty to this prestigious gathering. Let me also welcome our respected retired senior academic staff members of the faculty as well as the extended faculty. Dear Sir and Madam, your gracious presence brings honor to this event. I warmly welcome all the academic staff members of the Faculty of Medicine who have gathered here to grace this event. Your presence, as well as the contribution in numerous ways, is gratefully appreciated. Let me also welcome the Senior Assistant Registrar, Senior Assistant Bursa, and the Senior Assistant Librarian of the Faculty of Medicine who have accepted our invitation to grace the occasion. I welcome all the non-academic staff members who have gathered here today and contributed to make this event a success. I also extend a warm welcome to the parents of the students who will receive the Dean's Awards today. Dear students, I welcome all of you to FMAS 2021 and hope you will disseminate your knowledge during the scientific sessions and enjoy your first conference experience. Last but not least, I welcome all of you who joined virtually. Your presence here today is indeed a blessing and an inspiration to all of us to perpetuate our theme, navigating challenges for a healthier and a secure tomorrow. As we struggle to maintain normalcy in our day-to-day lives during an ongoing pandemic, we hope to address a multitude of topics during the keynote address, oration, and the symposium on how to overcome challenges to secure a healthier and a better tomorrow for us and for our children. I hope all of you will enjoy the scientific sessions planned for the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam, for the warm welcome. Next, we will proceed to the address by the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, University of Ruhuna. For this, I cordially invite Professor Vasantha Devasiri to the podium.
Good morning. Professor Sujay Amarasena, the Chief Guest, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Ruhuna, Dr. B.J.C. Pereira, our keynote speaker, Emeritus Professor, Professor Mohan De Silva, the invited orator, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Saman Ederiveera, the council members, deans of the faculties, and the directors of the teaching hospital, and members of the academic staff, the administrative staff, invited guests, and their dear students. It is with a deep pleasure or deep sense of satisfaction I address the Faculty of Medicine annual academic session for the second time in the year 2021. It is rather unusual to hold annual sessions twice a year, but that reflects the uncertainties prevailing in the country during this period. In 2020, we kept on postponing the session as we were uncertain what to do and what not to do and when to hold the FMAS during the pandemic. And we kept postponing it until up to early 2021. And then but the pandemic is still going on, but we learned the lesson and had the courage and confidence to organize the 9th FMAS, that is 2021 FMAS, to have it at proper time and organize it this time. I congratulate Professor Ruini Hewavasam, the chair of FMAS, and Dr. Achala Liyanage, the secretary, and all the members of the steering committee and the chairpersons and the members of all the other committees for the tireless work to make this event a reality. It is really heartening to see the enthusiasm and commitment shown by the staff, including both academic and non-academic, and the students in a time in which community and social activities are a rarity. I have confidence on you, as it is you who gave me the strength and courage to face all the challenges of the pandemic in the last 2 years. And thank you for that. Now it is time for us to break free from the pandemic mentality to face the new challenges. And that is the vision of the Vice Chancellor at this moment, as he was telling me last night also, and the vision of the university and the faculty as well at the moment. The theme challenge the challenges and for happier and secure tomorrow. This theme is our theme. It is our responsibility as academics to shape the future by sharing the research knowledge with the students and appreciating the students' performances symbolically by awarding them Dean's Awards. That is why it is important to hold FMAS irrespective of the existing conditions. It is our responsibility to shape the future by shaping the future generations. This is why we are incorporating several cultural events as well, which include the inauguration of the e-magazine of the cultural, the literary hub of the cultural center. It is with a deep sense of gratitude I appreciate the humble attitude of Dr. B.J.C. Pereira, the keynote speaker, and Emeritus Professor Mohan De Silva, the invited orator, who willingly responding by consenting to my request through a phone call. I hope this symposium be a meaningful and beneficial activity for all of us to shape the future for the benefit of many. I wish you all the best and hope you will enjoy the sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for those inspiring words. Up next on the agenda is the address by the chief guest of FMAS 2021. For that, I respectfully invite the Vice Chancellor of University of Ruhuna, Senior Professor Sujiva Amarasena, to the podium.
Good morning to all of you. Keynote speaker, Dr. B.J.C. Pereira, orator of the FMAS 2021, Professor Emeritus Mohan Silva, council members, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Dean, Chairperson and the Secretary of the Organizing Committee, members of the academic staff, Directors of Teaching Hospitals Karapiti and Mahamudra, the executive staff and members of the non-academic staff, students, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, let me thank the organizing committee for inviting me to be the chief guest on this occasion of FMAS 2021. The inauguration ceremony. I think the organizing committee and the Faculty of Medicine has selected the right theme, navigating challenges for a secure tomorrow in the pandemic. I think we have been talking about COVID-19, the pandemic, and it has created the COVID-19 mentality. That's something that I was talking about with the Dean even last night. I think we need to get out of this COVID-19 mentality. It's in a way a mental sickness to me. As people who are educated, understand the disease very well, and vaccinated and protected, we really need to take calculated risks in this game today if you really want to create a secure tomorrow and then navigate challenges. I think we probably might hear a little more about these things from our orator and the keynote speaker. But to me, I found this theme very interesting and tried to analyze it in a different way as a Vice Chancellor today. So secure tomorrow means creating a secure environment of having security for everything that we do in our life. So security on my terms as a Vice Chancellor in the University of Ruhuna is about everything like personal security, security of the property, health security, disaster security, financial security, economic security, security of the future, educational security. Create security for every aspect of life that we had prior to COVID-19 pandemic. Today, so if you try to have that holistic approach, looking at everything in life and trying to be secure, I think we probably will be able to navigate challenges, and if not, we'll find something leaking, having a loophole in the security systems, creating problems. We have had diseases affecting us all the time, the dengue outbreak, whatever you call it. So I think we probably will have cases of COVID-19 with us time to time for some time to come. It is probably not possible for the entire world to get rid of COVID-19 soon. Maybe another year, maybe two. But I think it might actually go to a transitional phase where it is just another influenza like illness. And we'll have to live with it, with or without vaccination. We do not know about these things. But if we shed our fears and anxiety towards these fears, then we will be able to navigate challenges. And in that sense, I can actually be happy as a Vice Chancellor, and I am sure all of you can be proud as academic staff members of and also members of the student community and the staff community and extended faculty community on the things that we have achieved as a university during this pandemic. So obviously Faculty of Medicine has graduated students last year and has graduated students this year. And I am sure the Faculty of Medicine will graduate students by March next year as well. And I think some of you might not be aware that we have graduated students in both years, 2020 and 2021, now from almost all faculties except Faculty of Science and Faculty of Engineering, and both faculties are having their exams these days, and hopefully by January they will graduate their students, and we are planning to have a convocation on 26th of March 2022 because we have completed other convocations on time. So that's navigating a challenge during the pandemic, not in a post-pandemic era. Why is that important? You will understand one thing with time, and I'm sure you will go through this experience over the next 5 years. We are all talking about bankrupt country, we are all talking about economic disasters, and talking about economic recovery, right? I think Sri Lanka is a blessed country, and I always look at this country in a positive way. So all countries in the world, including Sri Lanka, will recover slowly from their economies' losses. I was listening, and I'm sure some of you are missing these important discussions and lectures that we have from in other faculties. Try to listen in the evening, because all of you get your links on Zoom to listen. I was listening to Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy, the former governor of the central bank, and how he thinks about the economic recovery. And he was talking to our management students about what they should expect in the global economy, especially and for employment after graduation in the post-pandemic era. And I was very happy to see him speaking very confidently about Sri Lankan economy. I said, no, Sri Lanka will recover by definitely 2026 completely. And what he said was, and it will recover not through industrialization, but it will recover through service industry, all services, the leisure industry, hospitality industry, health industry, through those recoveries, and especially the port city which will be functioning by that time, where things will be, the city will be a totally service oriented industry with leisure and entertainment, health and IT. Lot more foreign currency will come into the country, and they must get ready for that. So for you, it is extremely important to have ICT and English knowledge or skills, and also maybe other languages as skills for employment in the short term. But long term, everybody will have those skills, English, IT, but more other things like more other languages, other foreign languages, other soft skills will be required for employment for our students. So it is up to us to guide these students to go through that pathway in the future. And why is that important? It is important because you cannot change this country or in the world without developing human resources required for development in this country and the world. And all our job, what we have to do, our job is to create or produce that human resource pool, especially in the health sector, both the Faculty of Medicine and the Faculty of Health Sciences. They will have a huge role to play. So, are we doing the right thing? Yes, I think we are, because we are increasing the intakes into these STEM degree programs and changing the humanities degree programs and giving them ICT skills, English skills as a mandatory part of degree program. And then our external degrees are now converted to online internal degree programs and with an in-house English and ICT training on the weekends. And I have received some comments from some of those students on email saying that they have never seen a university like this and they really would like to see the university on the weekends, and please keep teaching us on the weekends. Fairly large number of external graduates, students coming to study. So they will change, and we are fulfilling our obligations towards the civil society and the country, and ensuring that our responsibilities are done. In time to come. Does these things change the country and the world and the people, individuals? I think it does. If you want data, what I can tell you, and I was just telling our orator today, this morning, what I have seen over the last 3 years. I'm not talking about the rest of the period. Last 3 years, the change I have seen. Not necessarily in the university. I'm not talking about the past. It's not ragging. On 26th of March, when we had our convocation, we did a tracer study. And we had a tracer study for 2019. So we just compared the tracer studies. What we found was shocking. So we have data which shows the employability of humanities graduates was only 55% at the end of 24 months of graduation. And large majority of them were actually external degree holders. We found in our own university, our tracer study, 80% of our humanities students are employed within 1 year of graduation with that change. And 70% of them claiming or having a perception that they can speak English well or excellently. Reason? They were made free to speak in English. And 55% of the humanities graduates find employment within 6 months. 95 to 100% of other graduates in all the other faculties find employment within 1 year. So we don't have to talk about engineering and medicine, but others, including management, the science and agriculture graduates, they are employed. So they are producing. We are going to navigate challenges, definitely, in that approach. Our role in navigating challenges is to create the required human resource pool, create or generate data and research findings with evidence that this will succeed to help develop the country, and commit ourselves for our work. If you do this, we will definitely navigate challenges that this country will face in the future. At the end of the day, when you leave this place one day, from whatever the position that we hold as Vice Chancellor, Dean, academic staff, one day we will be retiring, and you look back at it. Look, we went through this pandemic, which was never kind of thought before, never experienced something like a serious setback in economy like in post-World War II situation, or in the pandemic in Spanish flu. I do not think we went back that much in the 2 wars that affected us. Because this is very serious, everybody understands it, everybody knows, I mean, minute detail about treasury. How much US dollars are there in the reserves and how much bank, how much loan, everything. I think even the school boys are aware of these things today because with the aid of the social media. So we know the seriousness of the situation. But despite all this, we will be able to navigate these challenges. But only if we do our job properly. Let's commit ourselves for our working culture, ethical working culture, and commit ourselves for fulfill our obligations and responsibilities. Teach students, guide them to the right path, do research, disseminate findings, show evidence-based interventions to manage situations. One such example, Department of Community Medicine is engaged with at the moment, because they are monitoring health of over 60 population in the Goal 4 Gravat area or municipality area nowadays over the telephone. And I know their data. There are I think 10,152 people above 60 in the Goal municipality area, of whom they tried to contact 2,700, and 1,700 plus number responded to calls, and they found 2.5% of them unimmunized, 42. So I have submitted that list, I have given them to Health Ministry and the epidemiologist, asking them to go and vaccinate. Not because of fear. They don't have access, they don't have a way to come for the university center, my immunization center. They felt fear of pain, not necessarily allergies. So you extrapolate that data, it will come to about almost 100,000 over 60 people who might actually die of COVID-19 if they catch it. And 70% of them are having comorbidities, of whom 15% are actually not on good control of their hypertension, diabetes mellitus and other diseases. See the problem? So 15% of 100,000 is going to be 15,000 in the country. That is because our health system has not been able to manage the gaps, fill the gaps in health system to approach the most disadvantaged people in the community despite having a free health system. So those are our challenges. There is no question about our ability and our skills to manage this situation. We have that. Don't worry about that. Only thing, we need to shed our differences, learn how to manage differences of opinion within our systems without fighting on the social media or traditional media, and then have a collective team effort to manage these problems, as we had done in the past for other problems. And if we do that, we'll definitely be able to navigate challenges and create a healthier and a securer tomorrow. And consider security in the whole context, the total context, not just health security. And if you do that, Sri Lanka will win. I think with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to conclude. Let me once again thank the organizing committee and the Faculty of Medicine for inviting me to be the chief guest. And I hope and wish this FMAS conference all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for those heartening words. Ladies and gentlemen, now we are moving on to one of the key events of the annual session, the keynote speech. This invitation is for the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, Professor Vasantha Devasiri, to introduce the keynote speaker of FMAS 2021, Dr. B.J.C. Pereira, to the audience.
Thank you very much. Dr. B.J.C. Pereira, he qualified with MBBS Ceylon with second class honors in 1970. And subsequently, he obtained his DCH DCH Ceylon, DCH England, and MRCP UK, and MD Pediatrics, FRCP Edinburgh, FRCP London, FRCP CH UK, and FSLCP PED, and FCCP, and Ordinary FRCP CH UK, and Ordinary FCGP Sri Lanka. He has many research presentations and publications, including over 60 oral presentations in Sri Lanka and abroad, with 4 prizes for the best papers. He is the author of 171 scientific publications in peer-reviewed journals, including journals listed in the Medline, PubMed, and Index Medicus. He has delivered 12 scientific orations and over 50 guest lectures at national and international meetings. His research interests are childhood asthma, respiratory infections, breastfeeding, and pediatric HIV disease. He has been an editor, chapter author, or joint author of 12 books, including his autobiography, A Trek Known Only to a Few. In 1996-1997, he was the founder president of the Sri Lanka College of Pediatricians. From 2000 to 2008, he was the founder president of the Respiratory Disease Studies Group of Sri Lanka, and then the founder president of the Childhood Respiratory Disease Studies Circle from 2008 to 2018. He was the chairman of the Board of Study Pediatrics of the Postgraduate Institute, University of Colombo, from 2003 to 2006. He was honored with the prestigious award of the Outstanding Pediatrician of Asia by the Asia Pacific Pediatric Association in 2007. He was the president of the Sri Lanka Medical Association in 2013. He is a section editor of the Ceylon Medical Journal, a joint editor of the Sri Lanka Journal of Child Health, and the joint editor of the proceedings of the Sri Lanka College of Pediatricians Annual Scientific Sessions Congress. He was the editor-in-chief of the Sri Lanka Journal of Biomedical Informatics till recently. He is also a member of the International Advisory Board of Pediatrics and Child Health, a reviewer of the Sri Lanka Journal of Medicine, a member of the International Review Board of the Archives of Diseases in Childhood, and member of the International Reviewers Panel of the Medical Science Monitor. He was an examiner for the medical undergraduates of the Universities of Colombo and Peradeniya, and postgraduates of the Postgraduate Institute of Medicine, and external examiner for the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Pakistan. He is widely traveled and is a well-known cricketer, a national ranked tennis player, and a level 1 certified coach of the International Tennis Federation. There are much more to say about Dr. B.J.C. Pereira, and being a very helpful and kind senior colleague of most of us. And on behalf of the organizing committee of the FMAS 2021, I respectfully invite Dr. B.J.C. Pereira to deliver the keynote address of the year 2021 on pediatric research, a kaleidoscopic personal trait. Thank you very much.
All the distinguished scholars at the head table and distinguished invitees for the Faculty of Medicine Academic Sessions 2021. A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, sir, thank you very much for those excellent words of introduction. I think quite a bit of it is thoroughly undeserved. But anyway, it warms the cockles of my heart to listen to somebody say so many nice things about oneself. You did mention that earlier on that it was very kind of us, both Professor Mohan De Silva and myself, to accept the invitation to be present and to talk on our respective topics today. But as for me, it really was such an honor. And I stand here now quite bewildered by this kind of accolade that has been showered on me, to be invited to do the keynote address for this August gathering. I did not want to take a chance, so I decided to come over to Galle yesterday in the afternoon. And from the time that I arrived at the exit of the highway, just as I stopped the car to pay the bill, from that time onwards, I've been treated like royalty. And I'm ever so grateful, because even the toll charge had been paid in advance by the younger colleagues of mine, so I'm very grateful for this accolade. And that gratitude sees no end. Ladies and gentlemen, the mainstay of any Congress is research, and I'm sure so will be this Congress as well. It was a huge temptation, to talk about research, lest you are distracted by the rather provocative two images that I have put on there. So, if I were to talk about all kinds of details and finer points about research, how to do it, etc., 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 as Yul Brynner would say in The King and I, the famous film of yore, you have probably heard it all, time and time again, ad infinitum and ad nauseum. And so, I will not try to carry coals to Newcastle or try to sell ice to Eskimos, because your community here are quite erudite scholars in their own right. So it will be, or it would have been, a very powerful sedative to put everybody to sleep if I started to talk about how to do research and that kind of thing. However, in a professional life of around 51 years, where the appearance has changed from the image on the left to that on the right, now I thought I will talk about some of the personal trails of a kaleidoscopic nature of pediatric research. So what I'm going to do is to engage in some storytelling. Like once upon a time, there lived an extremely prematurely born little boy who went on to become a consultant pediatrician. Because I want you to become co-creators and connect with me and engage with me and develop a cycle of rapport with me during this presentation. So what I'm going to talk about is really just one aspect, one component, an important one at that, of research in a professional life of over half a century. I'm sure you're now wondering what that is going to be. I will enlighten you in due course. So to keep you awake, let me talk about some of the negatives first. In 1969, as a fourth-year student, medical student in the Colombo Medical Faculty, I wrote an essay on an abstruse medical topic to the Journal of the Colombo General Hospital and submitted it. That journal is no more. It's extinct. I thought I had done a brilliant job. As it turned out, it was utter rubbish. My idea of writing about to the journals was to write essays. Within a couple of days, the editor, Dr. David Shanmugam, wrote to me a beautifully worded letter of rejection. That letter did three things. It did not call me a stupid fool, although I deserved it. It was not worded to discourage me. The advice provided stood me in good stead. Then the second one was a baptism by fire, so to speak. In 1971, in the second half of my internship, there were two cases of a very rare disorder in children. We wrote it up and submitted to Dr. Stella De Silva, editor of the Sloan Journal of Child Health. She sent me with the script to Emeritus Professor C.C. De Silva for him to review the article. He sat me down on a beautiful antique couch in his sitting room and chopped it up with a red pen. Not a single sentence escaped his brilliant mind. And of course, at the end, to soften the blow, he said, "My dear boy, you have a lot to learn." And his gracious wife and himself treated me to a delicious high tea before I was sent off. So I had to type the script all over again on a monster metal typewriter at that time. Remember, it's kind of early 1970s. No computers at that time. And this saga repeated 7 times. And every time it included high tea as well. Every time he would chop something off in a red pen, and I had to redo it. The 8th time, I went to Madam Stella and begged for mercy. She took pity on me and published it. And that was my first publication in the Sloan Journal of Child Health, which metamorphosed into the Sri Lanka Journal of Child Health, where I have the great honor to be one of the joint editors now. The days passed as they do, and life went on. There was a lull of 10 years, and there were other more important things to do, like getting the postgraduate qualifications as well as, of course, getting married. I beg your pardon, excuse me. And then things changed due to a chance opportunity. As far as I know, the holy grail of research from which you can drink your fill is opportunity. And, as I told you before, this word, opportunity, is the one I'm going to concentrate on for the rest of my talk. You're going to hear this over and over again, ad nauseum really, during the next, say, 26 minutes or so. If you hear a knock on the door and you ask from inside, who is it? Someone who knocked answers opportunity. And you ask, opportunity who? Opportunity what? There will be silence. Because it has been said that opportunity knocks at the door only once. However, if that initial opportunity is taken, many more vistas of chance could open up later. And that is exactly what happened to me initially, long years ago. I came back from the United Kingdom in 1978 after securing the hallowed MRCP, which was all that was required at that time with the DCH from Sri Lanka as well, to be a consultant pediatrician. And I was posted to Badulla as the only pediatrician around for kind of 50 to 100 kilometers around. Then I went back again to the same hospital in the United Kingdom as a locum consultant in 1982 because I managed to get earned leave. Nobody else wanted to take earned leave. So although I was so junior, I was able to get it because everybody else was worried about other things if they took earned leave and left the country for 6 months. And then I saw a nebulizer for the very first time in my life. Because when I left UK in 1978, there were no nebulizers. During those 4 years, this had come and I saw the fantastic results of the use of nebulizers in asthmatics. There you are, the opportunity knocked and beckoned. So I bought a Portaneb 40 heavy-duty air compressor at the princely sum of 50 pounds sterling. Then I sweet-talked all the medical supply division of the hospital to give me enough of the Acorn 2 jet nebulizing chamber, enough of the masks and tubings, and also the respirator solution. None of these things were available in Sri Lanka at that time. And I brought it all back to Sri Lanka in my hand luggage, and I was passed through the green, nothing to declare gates without any problem because I was a doctor. Because if they searched my baggage, they would have found all unlicensed material, and I would have been promptly charged for trying to bring in contraband onto the country. So I went off to Badulla with all these gadgets, and as I had hoped, many opportunities opened up. Then it was the very first study of salbutamol nebulization in acute childhood wheezing in Sri Lanka, done in Badulla, which one of your emeritus professors of pediatrics, an erudite scholar in his own right, once called a dump. He is my friend. He's not here around, but he called it a dump. And I always pulled his leg because I produced more research papers from Badulla than his unit. Then 60 consecutive VC children, there was an excellent response in 87, which was much, much higher than the result we could obtain with any of the other forms of treatment that was available for asthma at that time, like adrenaline, aminophylline, you name it. So this was presented at the Sri Lanka Pediatric Association 20th Annual Congress in 1984 and subsequently published in the Sri Lanka Medical Journal as the very first report of the use of nebulized salbutamol in acute childhood asthma. That was a spark of opportunity that ignited a lifelong cascade of interest in childhood respiratory disorders, became an infatuation with me right up to the present time. There were several studies on nebulizing carried on after that, and one especially, which I have highlighted there, actually gave perhaps the world a very simple dosage schedule compared to the more complicated one that was advocated by the manufacturers of the respirator solution. We even went to the extent of showing that we didn't need my air compressor because you could drive it very well with a pressurized oxygen from an oxygen cylinder. Now most jet nebulizing chambers in Sri Lanka and perhaps everywhere else in the world driven by pressurized oxygen at a flow rate of about 6 to 8 liters per minute. Sometimes opportunities do not just happen, ladies and gentlemen, we need to create them ourselves. And a chance word may be all that is required to create an opportunity. And this is what happened in 1990. I was talking to my good friend, Professor Devaka Fernando, and he was very interested in studies detailing cost effectiveness of the things we do. So he suggested, why don't you do some cost benefit studies in asthma? That was the opportunity that I seized. And he did a study on efficacy and cost effectiveness of inhaled steroids in childhood asthma in the private sector, because we had to do it in the private sector, because it was these inhalers were not available through the National Health Service. So there were 86 consecutive children with severe asthma who were recruited over 4 years from 1990 in a private hospital and randomly allocated to beclomethasone, dipropionate, or budesonide prophylaxis with metered-dose inhalers and spacers. And they paid for all the drugs and everything, and we calculated the cost of illness. They paid, we made them pay my consultation fees as well, so that we will have a realistic idea of how useful this form of treatment is going to be. 80, that is 93% of the original 86 responded very well and had a significant reduction in expenses. Now, the cost of illness, both direct and indirect costs, was reduced by as much as 83%, mainly by a reduction in the necessity to bring these children in the middle of the night to emergency facilities for acute attacks of wheezing. So they were all well under control. So I wrote this up and quite audaciously sent it off to the Archives of Disease in Childhood. I never expected this to be published. 2 weeks later, I got a reply from the editor of the archives saying that this is the first time that such a study has been done in the world. I'm not sending this even for review. We are publishing it in the very next issue. That was quite a surprise. So it came in the archives as efficacy and cost effectiveness of inhaled steroids in asthma in a developing country. And all it did in Sri Lanka was that it led to the provision of beclomethasone, dipropionate, metered-dose inhalers at LRH free of charge to the children who needed it. Well, I had this captive group of cohort of patients of 86. None of them bailed out. Actually, they continued to come because they were very happy at the control of the disease. And after 1 year of good control, we tried to very slowly back titrate and withdraw the steroids. But we did it very slowly, every 3 months or so. By very small amounts, we reduced the dosage. And I managed to successfully withdraw it in 73 out of the 80 who originally responded. That's 90% without any recurrence. And more importantly, we followed up these children for an average of 8 years. The range was sort of very wide, something like 6 to about 13 years. 9 to about 14 years. Sorry, I made a mistake. Results were presented, and of course, later it was published because Well, you need to grab every opportunity you can and thrive on it. So at the usual sort of end of the appointment, little party with a few short eats and cakes and things like that, I asked them whether any of them were interested in research. And everybody put their hands up. And I thought, no, this is too good to be true. Then I said, okay, think about it, decide on a topic, and come back in 2 weeks. I never expected them to come back. So out of the 12 or 14 of the lot, I was very surprised that within about a week, 7 turned up. No, I mean, they were not up to that kind of thing. So I said, okay, that's fine. All we need is somebody who is committed. So let's work on a thing called laterality, left or right-handedness and footedness. This has not been done in Sri Lanka. And certainly not very much has been done in the Asian region as well about handedness in children. They said, fine. I said, it's going to be hard work. You will be doing all the work. I'll be sitting here in Ward 9 in Larich, but you'll be doing the work. That's fine by us, sir. Okay. So we randomly selected 14 schools in Colombo in early 1998 and randomly selected 2,000. Many different forms of assessment were used. We showed that the left-handedness was 7.4 to 10%, depending on the criteria used. And this is true of the world literature as well, because they also found that it was 8 to 10% when different criteria were used. And then we decided to submit this to the Sri Lanka College of Pediatricians Annual Congress, and it was selected as an oral presentation. And then I told the students, look, I'm not going to present this. This is your work. One of you will have to present this. And they started shivering in their shoes. I'm only human, ladies and gentlemen, so I selected the best-looking girl out of this lot and said, now, you, miss, are the one. You are the one who's going to present this. She started sort of, developing almost sort of convulsions at that time. And then I said, no, don't worry. We'll go through it and do it, collectively, but you will be the one who will be presenting it. And then I had an opportunity on a platter to do some work on handedness in elite tennis-playing children and adolescents. You heard something from the dean about my sporting exploits, and it was very easily done with the National Tennis Center in Green Park, Colombo 7, where I had direct contact. There were 193 child and adolescent elite tennis players. And unlike in all the other things, now in but there is only one stroke where just one hand needs to be used to play, always, for everybody, and that is the serve. So the hand that is used to serve gives you an idea of what handedness is in that player. So we had 16.5 lefties, much higher than the general population. And in fact, that they had proportionately higher rankings. They were playing quite well as well compared to the right-handers. And this was presented, because this was done in my own right, it was presented at the proceedings of the Sri Lanka College of Pediatricians in 2000. Now you might wonder why my kind of infatuation with handedness. I have a confused brain, ladies and gentlemen. I use both hands for various things, and any racket sport, I play left-handed. And my idol at that time was John McEnroe, known more for his bad behavior, and I was not far behind him in that respect either. I behaved very badly on a tennis court, actually, to be quite honest. And then we rounded up a research team in mid-2006 and looked at handedness and injuries in sports persons. And we looked at randomly picked 822 subjects in school sports teams. There were 8.2% lefties within the normal range. And what we found was interesting, because the lefties were not any more prone than the righties to get injured. However, the left-handers were more prone to develop injuries on the non-dominant side, that is the right side, while the right-handers were liable to develop injuries on the dominant side, that is also the right side. So either way, both groups got injuries on the right side of the vein, which was very unusual, and this was again presented at the Asia Pacific Congress of Pediatrics and Pediatric Nursing. So all this put together gave me the facility of presenting an oration, some facets of laterality in Sri Lankan children. Sometimes opportunity just lands at your feet. You need to be ready for it. It was Tom Peters, American writer on business management practices, who said, if a window of opportunity appears, don't pull down the shade, don't close the window. So there was an opportunity to combine asthma, tennis, and children, three of my best interests in life. And we did look at 182 tennis-playing children between 5 to 15 years age in Colombo in the National Tennis Center. And we looked at asthma in them, and we found very interesting results. I won't go into too much of detail, but the asthmatics were doing quite well, actually, when you look at some of the results which I have listed there. And that study became very important personally to me, because we managed to show it. It was my own study, because I did it on my own. As tennis-playing children and asthma at the very first annual scientific congress of the Sri Lanka College of Pediatricians, where I had the honor and the privilege to be the very first found president. Shifting gears, in 1996 I was nominated by UNICEF to attend a course in the Institute of Child Health, London, UK, breastfeeding practice and policy course for virtually a month. So I took my wife and my daughter, and when they had a holiday and I had to work, and following that on my return, I took the opportunity to undertake several research ventures on breastfeeding, 1996, 97, and 1998. And we produced all these sort of results in this as is duplicate, but I would like to point out the first one, where we looked at diarrheal diseases and respiratory infections and breastfeeding practices of infants admitted to Lady Hospital. Now, everybody knows that prolonged breastfeeding or exclusive breastfeeding helps in prevention of diarrheal diseases in children, but nobody had actually shown its relationship to respiratory infection. So this is the first time that this was done as well. And very easily, it got into a journal, the Journal of Tropical Pediatrics, the impact of breastfeeding practices on respiratory and diarrheal diseases in infancy, a study from Sri Lanka, simply because it was the first time it had been done for respiratory diseases. So, once again, I combined all these things and got this oration, the many intricacies of a golden elixir. Golden elixir was mother's milk. Well, in a personal trail of research, there were opportunities for accolades, ladies and gentlemen. So there are so many things that I have gained by exploring the opportunities that I had in trying to do research. And all these things I have listed there. You have already heard most of it. But what you didn't hear, and the one that I value most now, is this one, the last one, that in 2018 onwards, from 2018 onwards, the Sri Lanka College of Pediatricians started an annual oration for me in my name as a research prize oration. I think that is probably the absolute pinnacle of professional life for something like that, which will be there for eternity to be dedicated to your name. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you might think that after what I have said, this has been a piece of cake, a walk in the park. It's not so, really. It has not been plain sailing always, because there were brickbats. You have to be prepared to face all these brickbats in this kind of endeavor. In 1984, when I showed that very first study in the college sessions, one of the erudite academics got up and said, "Oh, we have been treating asthma without all these nebulizers for a long time, without it," because I said, because I have known not to be able to control my mouth, at the end I said, my prediction is that within the next 5 years that every medical facility in Sri Lanka will have a nebulizer. So that person didn't quite like this, said, "Oh no, we can manage without it." It didn't take 5 years actually. Within about 2 years, every medical facility in Sri Lanka had a nebulizer. That's one. Second was more frightening actually. In 1986, I was in Ratnapura, so presented a large cohort of patients with acute post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis and nephritic syndrome in Ratnapura, and showed the clinical profile and the forms of treatment. And one of the forms of treatment that we used was furosemide. Oh my God. 2 academics from the Faculty of Medicine, Colombo, took me apart and tore me to pieces for using furosemide in public. And they said it was an unethical study using a nephrotoxic drug in a renal disorder against the published literature, blah, 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 and blah. Luckily, I was saved by another consultant pediatrician, a friend of mine, and a general practitioner who unfortunately is no more, who had the guts to get up and openly say that they too use the drug and have always had similar good results. I was terribly distressed, ladies and gentlemen, to be quite honest. With righteous indignation as well, how dare they call me names like that? So I wrote to Professor Martin Barrett, the foremost world authority in pediatric nephrology at Great Ormond Street Hospital for Sick Children, London, and I explained the details of my dilemma and asked for his advice. I got a reply. There were no emails at that time. Snail mail, got a reply within 2 weeks. The last line in his reply said, "Furosemide is excellent treatment for childhood post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis, period." It was an opportunity to vindicate myself. So, immediately embarked on a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trial of oral furosemide in post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis. There were enough and more patients in Ratnapura. And we looked at the clinical progress, and we looked at serum and 24-hour urinary electrolytes, and they were measured repeatedly. These are the results, very briefly, that it showed that without any significant doubt at all, that the furosemide group did much better than the placebo group. This was presented, so this is the very next year. The high-dose furosemide in glomerulonephritis, the controversial performer. And I started this presentation by elucidating on what happened 1 year before. And there was pin-drop silence at the end of it, because scientifically I think this was much more robust and very convincing. And ladies and gentlemen, it is now standard practice all over the world to use fusimide in post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis. And in fact, they have started using it sort of years later, even in the professorial unit in Colombo, which originally criticized this work. And if you want to do this study again now, it will not be allowed. You will not get ethical clearance because it is unethical not to use it. So it's standard practice now. I had the opportunity of coming under the privilege, I had the privilege to come under the tutelage of these fantastic people such as Professor C.C. De Silva, Professor Carlo Fonseca, and Dr. Stella De Silva. And of course, I had my own sounding board at home, who is no more, who behind the scenes, in her own gentle way, practically corrected every one of my scripts and every one of my presentations. So I miss her so very much. But even then, did all this sound like MPHOT, ladies and gentlemen? And if you are not familiar with that acronym, it means monkey praising his own tail. The real intentions are far from it, I assure you. Because having to work hard for something you love is called passion. If that love is for research, that passion is fueled and driven by opportunities. When opportunity beckons, you drink from the Holy Grail as much as you want. I call this a kaleidoscopic personal trail, ladies and gentlemen. It's an optical instrument, or really a toy sometimes, with a continually changing pattern of shapes and sizes because there are so many mirrors around inside this toy. I know my time is up. May I have a couple of minutes more? And by changing the lower bit of this instrument, that you get all these different shapes and sizes unimaginable in form and variety. So the same applies to all the opportunities that you will get. They come in different sizes, different colors, and different shapes. It was Sir Anthony Hopkins, CBE, who said, celebrated Welsh actor, film director, and film producer, who said in certain moments of our lives we get little signals, little flashes that say, it's yours if you want it. And what I suggest to you is that to try and make you want it, to make the most of every opportunity in research. This painting depicts three women carrying the same pot in their own different ways. I have tried to give you, ladies and gentlemen, with apologies to all blue eyes, Frank Sinatra, my way of handling opportunities. I have no doubt that each one of you would have your own way of doing the same. I've been talking about opportunities in research. Then I listened on the 21st of September 2021 to the SLMA oration. Before Breath Becomes Air, a personal odyssey of ECMO in Sri Lanka, and it was presented by Dr. Talusha Harishchandra from Galle. I don't know whether she's around. What I have described in this talk about opportunity in research is nothing, ladies and gentlemen, and I repeat, absolutely nothing compared to what has been accomplished in Galle. A shining example of how research opportunities could be explored. Perhaps I have indeed been trying to carry coal to Newcastle and trying to sell snow to Eskimos. This is the ever camera-ready lady who was appointed as the eminent advocate for children by UNICEF in the year 2007. She is none other than Her Royal Majesty, Queen Rania of the Kingdom of Jordan. She has been working all her life, and she is the royal consort of the warrior king al-Abdullah of the Kingdom of Jordan. He once said, at the end of the day, a position is just a position, a title is just a title, those things come and go. It is really your essence and your values that are important. Dean, sir, you mentioned about all the positions that I have held. I don't think any of them are there to stay. Those things come and go. And Napoleon Hill, who was known for this book, Think and Grow Rich, said, desire is the starting point of all achievement, not a hope, not a wish, but a keen pulsating desire which transcends everything. Now that's the desire to grab every opportunity in research that you need. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for me to take my leave now. And you might notice that the two words, my leave, I have highlighted. And that is a tribute to this great man who was my guru, my mentor, late Professor Carlo Fonseca. Now, Professor Carlo Fonseca is a physiologist. He never taught me any physiology because he came back from England after we had cleared the hurdle of physiology. But he taught me everything else. He taught me how to do research. He taught me how to write. He taught me how to speak. He taught me how to present. And if I have made a reasonable job of this presentation today, half of that credit should go to this great man. He used to come for my presentations and sit at the back very quietly, and at the end take me quietly to a side and point out all the mistakes that I made. And they were very welcome actually, because I learned. I was always the richer for it. One day he sat at one of my presentations, and at the end he came to me and said, BJC, I was trying to find fault with something, anything that you said, but right up to your last sentence, I could not find anything wrong, neither in your slides nor in what you said. But your last sentence, you made a mistake. He said, you said that it is time for me to take your leave to the audience. And he said, you can never take somebody else's leave. You can take only your own leave. I was dead sure that my mentor was wrong, at least in this instance. So I said, yes, sir, yes, sir. When I checked up the literature, he was dead right, as usual. You can never say your leave. And I have put this slide, ladies and gentlemen, as a token and a tribute to this great man who guided me and on whose shoulders I had the great privilege to ride along. Well, for all those of you who are not asleep, thank you for your attention, ladies and gentlemen. And also, for those of you who are asleep, it's time to wake up now. But if you are in this kind of situation, I wouldn't blame you if you don't want to wake up. So farewell, my friends. Goodbye till we meet again. Till that time, my thoughts and prayers are with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for that very interesting and inspiring keynote speech. Now, let me invite our chief guest, the Vice-Chancellor of University of Ruhuna, Senior Professor Sujiva Amarasena, to present the token of appreciation to the keynote speaker. And to accompany the chief guest, I cordially invite the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, Professor Vasanta Devasiri, and Chairperson of FMAS 2021, Professor Rubani Heba Vasam.
Thank you, sir. Now, let's move on to one of the most awaited events of today's program. That's the Dean's Awards Ceremony 2021. To announce the recipients of Dean's Awards 2021, I cordially invite the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, Professor Vasantha Devasiri. To present the awards to the recipients, I respectfully invite the Vice-Chancellor of University of Ruhuna, Senior Professor Sujiva Amarasena, and to accompany the chief guest, I cordially invite the Chairperson of FMAS 2021, Professor Ruwani Heva Vasam.
It is my pleasant task to introduce the winner of the Dean's Award at the second MBBS student. Mevan Abhishek Jeremiah Induvara is a past pupil of St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia. He has been involved in swimming from a very young age. He first made it to the national arena in 2008 when he first broke the Sri Lankan schools under 11 record in the 50 meter breaststroke, and then went on to represent the Sri Lanka age group team at the Asian Age Group Swimming Championship in Japan in 2009. From that point onwards, Mevan has gone on to win several medals at open national level and Sri Lankan schools levels competitions. He is two-time Sri Lanka school record holder, a multiple open national medalist, and a National Sports Festival gold medalist. He has represented the country at international events such as Asian School Swimming Championship in Macau in 2013, the South Asian Aquatic Championship in Sri Lanka in 2016, the Asian Open Water Swimming Championship in Malaysia in 2017, and the FINA World Marathon Swim Series in Abu Dhabi in 2018. He not only captained the swimming team in his school, but was also the vice captain of the Scrabble team, having won the Division A All Island Scrabble Team Championship in 2015. He sat for his advanced level examination in 2017 and received 3A passes in the biology stream. As a university student, Mevan first made waves in his first year by getting selected to represent the Sri Lanka University team at 30th Summer World University Games held in Italy in 2019. He also won all his events at the interfaculty and intermedical faculty level. Mevan's defining achievement in university swimming was when he won 5 gold medals at the 13th Sri Lankan University Games in 2019, having broken the Sri Lankan university records in all 5 events. He was the only athlete in the whole country to have achieved this feat in the 2019 edition of Sri Lankan University Games. He also was part of the faculty Scrabble team, which came second runners-up at the Intermedical Faculty Championship. Mevan showed his leadership skills in sports by being appointed as the student representative for the Sri Lankan Universities Association in 2020. Thereby, he got the opportunity to become the moderator of the panel discussions held during the first ever International Day of University Sports celebrations held at the University of Kelaniya in 2020. In 2021, Mevan had honor of being appointed as the International University Sport Federation Ambassador for Sri Lanka, an honor that only 2 students from the entire country get each year. As a student representative and the FISU student ambassador, Mevan has participated in many international events organized by the International University Sports Federation, such as 220 FISU World Forum and the FISU Volunteer Leadership Academy in 2021. Mevan is also an avid speaker, having participated in speech competition, of which he was a semi-finalist at All Island Best Gavel Speaker competition in 2021. He has also been the compeer at some faculty and other academically related events. Mevan passed his second MBBS examination, having received a first class with distinction in all 3 subjects, that is anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry. And today I am very happy to announce that Mevan Induvara is awarded the Dean's Award for the second MBBS Best Student for the year 2021. And now it is my turn to introduce the Dean's Award for the Best Third MBBS Student. Heinegedere Vitanage Netmi Yasara received her primary and secondary education in Southlands College, Galle. While at school, she was a member of the school chess team, senior choir, and was a girl guide. After sitting for advanced level examination in 2015, she entered the Faculty of Medicine, University of Ruhuna, in October 2016. She passed the second MBBS examination with a second class lower division, and at the third MBBS examination, she received a second class upper division with distinctions in parasitology and microbiology. From the first year at the University of Medicine, she was an active member in both faculty and university chess events. She received colors from the Sri Lanka University Sports Associations and University of Ruhuna for the performances in chess in 2019. She has won colors as the best women's performer of the University of Ruhuna in chess twice, in the year 2017 and in the year 2019. She was the vice captain of university chess team, which became the second runners-up at the 13th Sri Lanka University Games in 2019. The same year, she was the vice captain of the faculty chess team that placed first at the inaugural Intermedical Faculty Championship in 2021. In 2021, she captained the university women's chess team that became the first runners-up at the inter-university championship. She also was the faculty captain for the chess in 2020 and has played for Faculty of Medicine chess team that placed first at Inter-Faculty Championship in 2017 and 2018 and has won awards for the best individual performances during these events. In addition to that, in addition to chess, she was a member of the physiologist quiz team that represented the faculty at Professor Carlo Fonseca Challenge Trophy in 2019 and 70th Intermedical School Physiology Quiz 2019 held in Jakarta, Indonesia. She was also a member of the faculty dancing team which performed in several faculty and university functions, including Sri Lanka University Games, inauguration ceremony, and Faculty of Medicine academic sessions. Today, I am very happy to announce that Ms. Netmia Sara is awarded the Dean's Award for the Best Third MBBS Student for the year 2021. And let me announce the name of Deoni Akashmi Vijayanayaka for that she is selected for the third MBBS Dean's list. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we wish congratulations to the all Dean Award winners. The South possesses a unique and rich traditional cultural heritage. Kolam Sampradaya, the masked folk theatre with its humor and powerful storytelling, engages and enthralls the observer. South has its own Baswahara, the unique dialects in the different regions, and many literary works have captured its grace. And also, the down south is the home to the greatest literary figures of Sri Lanka. Among the poets of yore, Gajaman Nona, Alapatha Mudali, and Rancha Gudalamaya are legendary. Gajaman Kolama presented you by the Drama Subcommittee of the Cultural Center, Faculty of Medicine. Scenes from the late Mr. Dayananda Gunawardana's drama, Gajaman Puwata, woven with a folk song from Ranmala Barakaya, are enacted in FMAS 2021 to unravel the rich tapestry of the cultural heritage of down south. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome them with a warm round of applause.
ගජමන් ආල බඩන උඹ ගජමන් ආරෝවක් මක්කේ විත්තක් හිඳින් බං දොඩන්නේ නැතේ කොහේ වගේ මයේ යහත් කොහේ වගේ මයේ යහත් මාතරයි හොදේ දන්නයි යොදේ වැල්ලේ නිල් වැල්ලේ මේ පෙහන්දි එත්වන් දොඩෙනවා අපේ පාර ගියත් පමෙන් අපේ දකුණේ බඩු හරිය ආතර ගඟේ හිටියලු කිඹුලිගේ බැටියා මමත් ඒ වගේ යස හැඩ කොළු පැටියා රකුහාලට බලමාලුයි පොල්ලසයි බොලේ අතෙත් මුලින් වත් කඩයක් දැම්මේ අපි හොඳේ ඕලන්ද පොලේ පරේදුවේ යන්නට එන්නා මල්රේන්ද කිරිද පැනිද ගෙනෙමින් දෙන්නා සීනි පොල් කොහොයි දෝසි අරගෙන දෙන්නා ඔයයි නමට මං කෝදියේ පඳුරු බඳින්නා ආල වඩන උඹ ගජමන් ආල වඩන උඹ ගජමන් ආරෝවක් මක්කේ ඇවිතක් හිටින් වන් උම් දොඩන්නේ නැතේ deyam palla guda guda kati gata guda beraya bayalla chakra matra mapuramin masiti korala api takune gamma matara api takune gamma matara bavadana galla api takune gamma matara bavadana galla api takune gamma matara bavadana galla
Oh
Thank you so much for that unique and mesmerizing performance. The main event of an academic session is its oration. To introduce the orator of FMAS 2021, I cordially invite the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, University of Ruhuna, Professor Vasantha Devasiri, to the podium.
Professor Emeritus, Professor Mohan De Silva, is a former professor of surgery and chair at the Faculty of Medicine, Medical Sciences, Sri Jayawardhanapura University, and was the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, Medical Sciences at the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. A former President of the College of Surgeons, Sri Lanka, and the Chairman, University Grants Commission, Sri Lanka. He was also a former Honorary Consultant General Surgeon, Mid Cheshire Hospital, NHS Foundation Trust, United Kingdom. A respected pancreatico-biliary surgeon who introduced therapeutic ERCP services and training to Sri Lanka. Professor De Silva was a WHO expert advisor on patient safety in member states, Southeast Asia Regional Office, New Delhi, and a fellow of the Asian Pacific Society of Digestive Endoscopy. A respected medical author, teacher, a national and international examiner, he was a single author of a surgical textbook published in UK titled Clinical Surgery Made Easy, a companion to problem-based learning. TFM Publishing Limited, Shrewsbury, UK. He is also a chapter contributor to Bailey and Love's Short Practice of Surgery. Professor De Silva was a former member of National Education Commission, National Science Foundation, National Human Resource Development Council, the representative to USA, to Sri Lanka Fulbright Commission, and a member of the Governing Council of the South Asian University, New Delhi. He has delivered 5 orations and has 84 research publications, including presidential awards for research. Professor De Silva has made an impactful contribution to the progress of general surgery in Sri Lanka by playing a pivotal role in introducing a structured postgraduate surgical training program to produce general surgeons with special interests. As the chairperson of the University Grants Commission Sri Lanka from 2015 to 2019, he made a significant contribution to establish a quality, process-driven state higher education system and led the strengthening and regularization of the quality assurance processes in the state universities by establishing a quality assurance directorate in the University Grants Commission. Professor De Silva was a former captain of cricket at the University of Colombo in the first division and was the best all-rounder cricketer of the year 1978 at the University of Colombo. On behalf of the organizing committee of the FMAS 2021, I respectfully invite Professor Mohan De Silva to accept the FMAS Oration Medal and to deliver the FMAS oration for the year 2021 on surgery, success and happiness. A story within a story.
Thank you, Professor Devasiri, for your kind introduction. A very good morning to all of you. Vice Chancellor of the University of Ruhuna, Professor Sujiva Amarasena, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Saman Edrivira, members of the University Council, Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, Professor Vasanta Devasiri, keynote speaker, Senior Consultant Pediatrician, my friend, Dr. BGC Pereira, professors, heads of departments and other academic and non-academic staff of the university and the faculty, directors of the hospitals and the consultants from the Ministry of Health, including the incoming President of the College of Surgeons of Sri Lanka, Dr. Satish Gunasinghe, other distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, may I thank the Dean and the organizing committee for inviting me to deliver this year's faculty oration. As a practicing clinician, I particularly like your theme, navigating the challenges for a healthier and secure tomorrow. As a reputed medical faculty, your mission is to produce good doctors who will be navigating the challenges for a healthy and secure future for our people. Therefore, I thought I will use this opportunity to tell you a few stories about the triumphs, the tragedies, progress and setbacks the profession of surgery faced over centuries, and how surgeons adapted themselves to face such challenges up to the present era. And I will wind this speech by telling you another very interesting story within a true story of a surgeon, which I believe may inspire all of us to become good doctors, to navigate ourselves for a healthier and secure tomorrow for all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, surgery is a fascinating specialty. It is an invasive specialty. Patients trust us to allow us to physically invade their bodies. They expect a professional, safe, and a compassionate approach to the care they receive, and therefore our responsibility is enormous. Surgery as a specialty and surgeons as individuals have gone a long way to what we are today. During ancient times, the story of the surgeon was very different. They were then called healers. They were kept in a high pedestal, respected by kings and noblemen. In the 17th century, before the discovery of antiseptics, antibiotics, and anesthesia, surgery was performed only as a last resort in front of an imminent death. Preparation for surgery itself was very scary when viewed from today's context. Having fed with rum, the patient is tied down to the table by several strong men, and tobacco leaves were pushed into their mouths and rectum to make the patient drowsy. Surgeons wore white coats, and the coats became darker as the surgeon grew older, and the splattered blood and the body tissue spoiling the coat. And following surgery, all the instruments were kept inside the pocket till the next operation, as no one has heard of microorganisms then. As the time went by, the coats get discolored, and the color of the coat was considered as a sign of experience of the surgeon. Speed of the surgeon was all that mattered those days for the outcome. And most, of course, died from pain, from bleeding, and from infection. The fastest surgeon during the 18th century was one Robert Liston, a 6-foot 2-inch tall surgeon from London, considered then as the fastest knife on earth. He has a distinction of performing the fastest above-knee amputation recorded in the British medical literature, which he has performed in 2.5 minutes. This operation is also very unique in that it's the only operation recorded in the medical literature with a 300% mortality. So how did the mortality become 300? Normally, if you operate on a patient and he dies, mortality is 100%. But this story is 300%. Well, Liston was so famous those days for his speed. And on this particular day, French professor of surgery has come to witness Liston operating. He was given a special position in the operating theater and allowed to stand in front of Liston, close to the operating table. Liston used to operate with a particular style. He used to charm while operating. He used to charm like this: "Gentlemen, time me, gentlemen, time me." As the knife flashed onto the thigh of the patient, he accidentally amputated his assistant's finger. The knife also brushed the white coat of the French professor, touching his genitals but not cutting them. And professor was so horrified that he collapsed with a heart attack and died straight away. And the assistant died from gas gangrene, because those days we did not know anything about gas gangrene infection. And of course, patient bled to death. That's how the 300%. So in the absence of ancillary tools such as X-rays and in the absence of ancillary tools such as X-rays and scans to aid diagnosis at the time, as the time went by, the surgeons too got evolved to become good anatomists by performing post-mortem examinations and develop excellent diagnostic skills with detailed clinical observations. The diagnostic skills, of course, sharpened with experience, and the experience came from previous bad clinical judgments. Fascinating stories, such as preoperative diagnosis of Bohai syndrome. We all know the spontaneous rupture of the esophagus, made in 1724, that is almost 300 years ago, by Herman Bohai, a Dutch physician-cum-surgeon, on Baron Wisner, the Grand Admiral of the Fleet of Holland. You know, Holland had this, their seafarers. And diagnosing this condition before the death, which was confirmed at postmortem, that is 300 years ago. And the Ludwig Courvoisier, following a fascinating clinical study, coining this law called Courvoisier's law, which all clinicians and the medical students today even use for diagnosis of obstructive jaundice. And sharp clinical observations of Joseph Lister, a Glasgow surgeon, on how farmers treat their cattle with carbolic acid to get rid of the insects. That eventually led to the discovery of antiseptics in the world that saved millions of mothers from puerperal sepsis. A few of the excellent outcomes from clinical observations and research in the history of surgery. But it was the discovery of anesthesia by dental surgeon William Morton in 1848 that is considered as the discovery of the century, that dawned the era of painless surgery. Dr. Morton was a very empathic person, and he could not bear patients suffering in pain when he had to extract rotten teeth. Interestingly, he tried this substance on himself first, and it worked. Then he tried on his dog, and it worked as well. Then he tried on his assistant. Before, he tried on his first patient to extract a tooth. Then came the day of the greatest clinical experiment at the Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston, when Dr. Morton gave this substance to Professor Warrens to operate on a patient who had a vascular tumor in the neck. Now, prior to this, for years and years, different people used to introduce different substances with a lot of publicity. and you give it, and the surgeon puts a knife on the skin, and the patient will jump up shouting. So, that got ridiculed. The operation, this particular operation, took 30 minutes. At the end of the operation, Professor Warren turned to the audience and said, "Gentlemen, what you just witnessed is no humbug. The substance was diethyl ether. So discovery of anesthesia and antiseptics saw the birth of modern surgery in the 20th century. During this era, patients perceived that the doctors will always do the best for the patients and blindly accepted all complications related to surgical interventions. No questions were asked. This was the era of the autonomous clinician, and this era is long gone. The modern medical care has now become a form of customer care. Customer perceptions are central to the quality of care as perceived by the customer. As a result of the information explosion, advances in communication technology and knowledge about human rights and rights of the patients, modern society has developed high expectations of care outcomes. Undesirable outcomes and behaviors arising from ignorance, inaptitude, and risk-taking behavior are no longer acceptable. Quality of care and accountability has become key issues, and patient safety has been increasingly recognized as an issue of global importance and is a single factor that overrides all other concerns today. Now, surgery, by its nature of invasiveness, carries a risk of unintended harm. Management strategy is a correct diagnosis and a balance between the decision to proceed with surgery and the potential harm associated with non-performance. And this particular clinical skill has a significant impact on the outcome. Equally important are the procedural skills, which includes technical dexterity and the decision-making at every step of the operation. Surgical procedure is a set of sequential steps that is initially reversible. At this stage, surgeon is in a position to withdraw from the operation if the operation findings indicate that the originally intended procedure is not in the best interest of the safety or to enhance the quality of life and the overall survival of the patient. If the patient is physiologically compromised due to major trauma or sepsis, today's surgeon is expected to perform what is referred to as a damage control surgery, which means performing the minimum procedure to save life and withdrawing the field without compromise in safety. So the mindset of the surgeon to the safety of the patient is essential for the desired outcome. Now, irrespective of the magnitude of the surgery, the desired outcome of a surgical procedure is to provide relief innate to the body and mind of the patient. There are 4 major risks of any surgical procedure, and these are bleeding, anesthetic risks, unexpected events such as perforation of bowel or excessive bleeding, and the infection. And the outcome is a result of several attributes of a team dedicated to the task in which the surgeon is the key player but not the only player. His depth of knowledge, his diagnostic ability, his experience in clinical decision making, his communication abilities, his teamwork, procedural skills and commitment is central to achieve the goal without compromise in the safety of the patient. The operating theater today is considered as a high-risk environment, just like in the Formula One racing, aviation industry, or nuclear facilities. Errors could occur in any high-risk environments. Surgical errors may be due to multitude of factors. They are the complexity of the task, involvement of many individuals in the process, poor interpersonal relationships, risk-taking behavior of the surgeon, undue speed, urge to learn complex surgical procedures all the time, problems in delegating responsibility, and difficulty in remembering to carry out all activities by memory alone, rigid adherence to guidelines, stress, and work fatigue. The cognitive function can be compromised by stress and fatigue. What I just said is all evidence-based. Of all, two factors stand out, and these are complexity of the procedure and difficulty in remembering to carry out all activities by relying on memory alone. So how can we perform such actions or make decisions more effectively? Would the checklist approach work? It was difficult to imagine. At one stage it was thought that medicine is too complex for checklists because there are too many variables in medicine. So much so that some of the complications that occurred in ICU settings were once regarded as what they used to refer as routine complications. A classic one was the infection that occurs in the lines and tubes we insert to patients. They are called central lines, which we use to give drugs and nutrition. Now, data from the United States then showed that on an average, 5 million central lines are inserted per year, and 5 to 28% of such line infections ends up in death. I will now tell you a very interesting story, which made a substantial impact on our thinking regarding the occurrence of complications. In 2001, a critical care specialist in the United States called Dr. Peter Pronovost gave a try to reduce the line infections. He was a person who was very skeptical about what doctors do, although he himself was a consultant, because of a bad experience he had when he was a medical student. When he was a medical student, his father was diagnosed as leukemia and was under treatment. But by the time doctors reversed the diagnosis from leukemia to lymphoma, it's all too late. So he was very skeptical about doctors' abilities and the diagnosis. So he did not want to accept that the central line infection is an unavoidable complication. So he created a checklist. Very simple items, but with an important difference. And what is this difference? Difference is that he managed to obtain the mandate from the hospital administrators to give power to the nurses to make sure that the doctors carry out this simple checklist very accurately. Nothing special. For example, did the doctor wash his hands with soap and water? Did the doctor clean the patient's skin with an antiseptic? Did the doctor cover the entire patient with sterile clothes like what we normally do in the operating theater? Was the doctor wearing a mask, sterile gown and sterile gloves? Did he put a sterile dressing over the site once he inserted the line, and did he do this all under proper antiseptic and aseptic precautions in simple terms? And what was the result? In Johns Hopkins Hospital, where this research was carried out, 10-day line infection rate at the time was 11%. After 10 days, 11% of the lines got infected. And the results of this study surprised the doctors as well as administrators. When the simple checklist was rigidly executed, the 10-day line infection rate came down from 11% to 0%. This was an eye-opener. We have identified that what was thought as a routine complication was in fact a preventable complication. And this stimulated the clinicians to think further and do more research. In 1999, Institute of Medicine of the United States of America released the results of a sentinel study titled "To Err is Human." And this showed that in that year, in 1999, 40,000 to 98,000 deaths that occurred in the American hospitals were in fact preventable. And that is, these patients died due to medical errors and not because of the illnesses. Obviously, the impact of these results really shook the medical world. A similar study in 2013 by the same institute showed that 440,000 preventable hospital deaths occur each year in USA, 4.5 times higher than the 1999 estimate. There was a high-profile case where by mistake a wrong kidney was removed in a patient who had one functioning kidney at the time. medical errors have now become the third commonest cause of death in USA, only behind heart attacks and cancer. Unfortunately, in Sri Lanka, we do not have such accurate data. Your guess is as good as mine. So responding to this global problem of safe surgical care, World Health Organization in 1998 appointed a team of experts led by one Dr. Atul Gawande from University of Harvard to study the issue of patient safety. Professor Gawande is a general surgeon with a special interest in trauma and cancer surgery. The team identified three major areas to improve the patient safety. These areas involve people who are really involved in the surgical care. That is surgeons, the anesthetists, and the third, the essential basics that can be improved in the theater setting in order to reduce the post-operative wound infection. So their recommendation was to develop safe anesthetic teams, safe surgical teams, and to create systems to prevent what we call surgical site infections. And for this purpose, they designed a 19-item checklist to be completed in 3 stages. When the patient comes to the theater, that is, patient comes to the theater before the patient goes to sleep. Second stage is patient goes to sleep, but before surgeon starts the operation. And third one is after completing the operation, but before the patient leaves the operating theater. And they did a pilot study first. In 8 hospitals in the world, 4 from high-income countries and 4 from middle and low-income countries. And the results of this pilot study showed a statistically significant improvement in all performance indicators. Therefore, in 2008, World Health Organization surgical safety checklist was released globally. In pre and post analysis of nearly 8,000 surgical patients, use of checklists nearly double the adherence to basic perioperative safety standards, including confirmation of the procedure, confirmation of the operative site and the site, administration of antibiotics if needed, use of pulse oximetry for monitoring, objective airway assessments, and completion of instrument and sponge counts at the conclusion of the operation. These processes are particularly important when surgeons perform sequential steps during complex surgery. However, just as a pilot's checklist does not instruct the pilot how to fly the plane, surgical checklists do not tell the surgeons how to operate. Use of checklists reduce the deaths by more than 47% and cut complication rate by 35%. Today, the checklists have become an established standard of surgical care globally, and Sri Lanka introduced the checklist concept to our theaters in 2012. So that's the story of the checklist, how checklist approach helped to enhance the outcomes of present-day surgery if you compare what has been happening a long time in the past. So during the evolution of surgery, what actually happened to surgeons as individuals? As the surgery was evolving, the role of the surgeons to evolve. While facing the challenges of rapidly changing cutting-edge technology and techniques, and while trying to adapt to repeated learning curves, the role of the surgeon changed from the times of that compassionate clinician with a healing touch to become another service tool, continually trying to update with new knowledge, new skills, and new competencies within a comparatively short time span. We all know that the change is inevitable, but it is a speed of change that was the real challenge to surgeons. And during this process, anecdotal reports from all over the world have shown evidence that surgeons may lose the biggest strength we enjoyed over centuries, the respect of the society we long served with care and compassion. Ladies and gentlemen, the title of my speech is Surgery, Success and Happiness. So in this last part of the speech now, I'm going to tell you this last story. It is a story of a real patient. Well, it's a moving story. The main character of the story is also a surgeon. He was a patient. His name is Dr. Richard Tew, a Singaporean surgeon. Before his death on the 18th of October 2012, he was requested to deliver a lecture to to the passing out students at the Dental Christian Fellowship meeting. Title of his speech was Thoughts of Life, Wealth, Success and Happiness. Before that, I will just introduce him. He was a classic model for an aspiring medical student. Very active personality, a remarkable all-rounder, excellent both in sports and with studies, a man with great leadership skills and someone who was matured well beyond his years. He was a millionaire, a cosmetic surgeon, and he was 40 years old when he passed away. Now, I will read this deeply inspiring speech by a doctor, looking right to the face of death, sharing his thoughts of life, wealth, success and happiness. Please remember, this is his speech and not mine. You might get carried away. I quote, "Hi, good morning to all of you. My voice is a bit hoarse, so please bear with me. I thought I will just introduce myself. My name is Richard Teo. I'm a medical doctor. Since young, I was a typical product of today's society, a relatively successful product that the society wants and requires. I came from a below average family. I was told by people around me that happiness is about success and the success is about being wealthy. With this mindset, I have always been extremely competitive since I was young. Not only I need to go to the top school, I need to have success in all fields. I need to get trophies, I need to have colors, awards, everything so. So I was highly competitive since young. I went on to the medical school and graduated as a doctor. Some of you may know that within the medical faculty, ophthalmology is one of the highly sought after specialties. So I went after that as well. I was given a traineeship in ophthalmology, and I was also given a research scholarship by the National University of Singapore to develop lasers to treat the eye. So in this process, I got 2 patents, one for the medical devices and another one for lasers. And you know what? All these academic achievements did not make me any wealth at all. So once I completed my bond with Ministry of Health, I decided that this is taking too long. This training in eye surgery is just taking too long. And there is a lot of money to be made out there in the private sector. If you're aware, in the last few years, there is this rise of cosmetic surgery. Tons of money to be made there. So I decided, well, it's a time to leave. So I quit my training halfway, and I went on to set up my own aesthetic, that is cosmetic surgery clinic in the town, together with a day surgery center. You know, the irony is that people do not make heroes out of average doctors. They don't. They make heroes out of people who are rich and famous. People who are not happy to pay $20 to see a GP. The same person have no problem in paying $10,000 for a liposuction or $15,000 for a breast augmentation and so on and so forth. So why do you want to be a GP? Become a cosmetic surgeon. So instead of healing the sick and ill, I decided I will become a glorified beautician. So business was good, very good in fact. Started off with patient waiting list of 1 week, then became 3 weeks, then 1 month, then 2 months, then 3 months, all in the private sector. I was overwhelmed. There was just too many patients. I employed 1 doctor, the 2nd doctor, the 3rd doctor, the 4th doctor, and within first year, we were already earning millions. Just the first year. But never is enough, because I was so obsessed with it. I started to expand into Indonesia to get all the rich Indonesians who wouldn't blink an eye to have a procedure done. So life was really good. So what do I do with this spare cash? How do I spend my weekends? With spare cash, I got myself a track car. So we have car cup gatherings. We all go to Seping in Malaysia for car racing. And it was my life. With other spare cash, what do? I got myself a Ferrari. At that time, 458 isn't out. It's just a Spider convertible, 430. There was this friend of mine, a schoolmate, who is a trade and a rich banker. He got a red one and I got a silver one. What do I do with after getting the car? It's time to buy a house or to build our own bungalows. So we go around looking for land to build our own bungalows. How do I live my life? Well, we all think that we have to mix around with the rich and famous like Miss Universe. So we hung around with the beautiful, rich and famous. This is how we spend our lives. with dining and all these restaurants you know. I reached a point in my life that I got everything for my life. I was at the pinnacle of my career as well. I thought I was like having everything under control and reaching the pinnacle. Well, I was wrong. I didn't have everything under control. About last year, March, I started to develop a back pain in the middle of nowhere. So I thought maybe it was these heavy exercises I was doing for my exercises. So I went to the Singapore General Hospital and saw my classmate who was a radiologist and did an MRI just to make sure that it's not a slip disc or something like that. And that evening he called me and said that he found bone marrow replacement in my spine. I said, sorry, what does that mean? I mean, I know what it means, but I couldn't accept that. I was like, are you serious? I was still running around going to the gym, you know. But we had more scans the next day, PET scan. And they found that actually I have stage 4 terminal lung cancer. It has already spread to my brain, spine, liver, and the adrenals. And you know, one moment, I was there totally thinking that I had everything under control, thinking that I have reached the pinnacle of my life. And the next moment, I've just lost it. I was told that even after chemotherapy, I will have about 3 to 4 months at most. Did my life come crashing on? Of course it did. Who wouldn't? I went into depression. Of course, severe depression. See, the irony is that all these things that I have, the success, my trophies, my cars and my house and all, I thought they brought me happiness. But I was feeling really down, having severe depression. Having all these thoughts of my possessions, they brought me no joy. The thought of, you know, can I hug my Ferrari and sleep? No, it's not going to happen. It brought me not a single comfort during my last 10 months. And I thought they were, but they were not true happiness. What really brought me joy in the last 10 months was interaction with people, my loved ones, my friends, and people who genuinely care about me. They laugh and cry with me, and they are able to identify the pain and suffering I was going through. That brought me joy and happiness. None of the other things I have, all these possessions, and I thought they were supposed to bring me happiness, but it didn't. Because if it did, I would have been feeling happy thinking about it, when I was feeling really down. Those are what we call the objects of envy. I have them. I show them off to others. And I feel that by showing them, I can feel my own pride and ego. But that didn't bring me any joy at all. And I don't think it gave any joy to them either. But I thought they were a real joy to me. Well, let me just share another little story with you. You know, when I was young, I stayed in King Edward VII Hall. I had this friend whom I thought was rather strange. Her name is Jennifer. We are still good friends. And as I walk along the path, she would, if she sees a snail, she will actually pick up the snail and put it along the grass patch. I was like, why do you need to do that? Why dirty your hands? It's just a snail. The truth is that she could feel for the snail. The thought of being crushed to death is so real to her. But to me, it was just a snail. I was being trained as a doctor to be compassionate, to be able to empathize, but I couldn't. As a house officer in the oncology department in NUH, every day, every other day, I witnessed death in the cancer department. I saw how they suffered. I saw how the pain they went through. I saw all the morphine they have to press every few minutes just to relieve their pain. I saw them struggling with their own oxygen, breathing their last breath and all. But it was just a job. But was the patient real to me? They weren't real to me. It was just a job. I do it, I get out of the ward and can't wait to get home to do my stuff. But if you ask me now, would I have been a very different doctor if I were to relive my life today? I can tell you, yes, I will. Because I truly understand how the patients feel now. And sometimes you have to learn it in the hard way. In every area, all of you will start going into private practice. You will start to accumulate wealth. And actually there is nothing wrong in being successful, with being rich or wealthy. Absolutely nothing wrong. The only trouble is that a lot of us, like me, myself, couldn't handle it. Why do I say that? Because when I start to accumulate, the more I have, the more I want. The more I want, more obsessed I became. Like what I showed you earlier on, all I can was basically get more and more possessions, to reach the pinnacle of what the society did to us, of what the society wants us to be. I became so obsessed that nothing else really mattered to me. Patients were just a source of income, and I tried to squeeze every single cent out of them. A lot of times we forget whom we are supposed to be serving. We become so lost that we serve nobody else but just ourselves. That was what happened to me. My challenge to you is not to lose that moral compass. I learned it in the hard way. I hope you don't ever have to do it. We have been trained to be healthcare providers, professionals and all, and yet we don't know how exactly the patients feel. I'm not asking you to get involved emotionally. I don't think that is professional. But do we actually make a real effort to understand their pain and all? Most of us won't, I can assure you. So don't lose it. My challenge to you is always be able to put yourself in patients' shoes, because the pain, the anxiety, the fear is very real to them, even though it's not real to us and to me. You guys have a bright future ahead of you, and with all the resources and energy. So do think about it. Even if you are going to become professionals, that you can reach out to these people who are in need. Whatever you can do, make a very large difference to them. I am now at the receiving end, so I know how it feels to have someone who genuinely care for you, encourage and all. It makes a lot of difference to me. When I face death, when I had to, I stripped myself of all stuff totally, and I focus only on what is essential. The irony is that a lot of times, only when we learn how to die, then we learn how we should live. I know it sounds very morbid to you to hear this morning, but it is the truth, and this is what I am going through. Don't let society tell you how to live. These things happen to me, and I led this life thinking that these are going to bring me happiness. I hope that you will think about it and decide to yourself how you want to live your own lives. Because true happiness doesn't come from serving yourself. I thought it was, but it didn't turn out to be that way. I unquote. That was his story. Let's critically look at the terms success, wealth, and happiness that Dr. Teo has mentioned. What is wealth? Well, for many, to have wealth means having money and assets. That is also referred to as the material wealth. Although money is necessary for a comfortable living, many wrongly believe that money is all that is needed to ensure a fulfilling life. But there are other more important things that provide happiness that don't necessarily have a monetary value. Your valuable personal assets you acquire, your knowledge, your skills, your talents, your relationship with the family, your friends and colleagues, your health, your selfless service to others to make them happy, your character and your values constitute the greatest wealth, sometimes referred to as the real wealth. What is happiness? Is there a link between the wealth and happiness? Well, in my opinion, happiness you are looking for is inside you. Happiness is the experience of joy, a containment within us, combined with a sense that one's life is good, meaningful, and worthwhile. Along the vital ingredients of a happy life are our unique skills and abilities to enrich our lives and benefit lives of others, developing and maintaining quality social relationships, positive thinking, compassion, and caring for others. Innate happiness may easily be curtailed when we start competing with others or envy their achievements or their privileges. We must never do that. We must compete only with ourselves for our progress. Have you heard of the happiness hormone? It is also called love hormone. It is oxytocin. The opposite to this is a stress hormone, which we are all aware of, catecholamines. There is evidence that high levels of happiness hormone enhance longevity. There is no direct link between the wealth and happiness. There is only a perceived connection. So what is success? Success is not a destination. but a journey of milestones and achievements. The doing is more important than outcomes. It is about what you learn along the way. One needs more than ambition and talents to make a success of everything. There must be passion and conviction of whatever we do. Success and happiness are inseparably linked. Happiness can create success, but success is not the key to happiness. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I've told you a story about the triumphs, tragedies, progress and setbacks the profession of surgery faced over centuries as it moved towards the present day, and what may be happening to its practitioners like us as we evolve. In my opinion, one of the continuing challenges for surgeons is a need to learn to cultivate, to maintain and enhance 4 important professional qualities, 4 C's we call it, namely the communication skills, the commitment, compassion and caring spirit, and common sense, sometimes referred to as a 6th sense. So as clinicians, what can we learn from all these stories we just heard? Well, along with the traits of a surgeon, supplemented with professional responsibility and values such as dedication, devotion, and human approach, amongst others, all of us as clinicians should do our duty to provide the best compassionate care for our patients. It is by its very nature virtuous. Happiness and virtue are derived from performing our duty as clinicians and realizing that helping others is the real path to innate fulfillment, and not by irrational, obsessive pursuits of accumulation of material wealth. A well-known philosopher, Vernon Howard, have said, "You have succeeded in life when all you really want is only what you really need," unquote. An erudite priest from RNA in Sri Lanka, in Kandy, was once asked whether artificial intelligence could replace medical profession one day. He said, "That is possible, but never those who practice this art with a heart." Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that inspiring speech. And sir, can you please remain on the stage for a moment? Now, let me invite the chief guest, the Vice-Chancellor of University of Ruhuna, Senior Professor Sujeeva Amarasena, to present the token of appreciation to the orator. And to accompany, I would like to invite the Chairperson of FMAS 2021, Professor Ruwani Hewalasan. And now, I would like to invite the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, Professor Vasantha Devasiri, to present the token of appreciation to the chief guest of the occasion. Thank you, sir. We have now reached the end of the inauguration ceremony of FMAS 2021. So before delivering the concluding remarks, to propose the vote of thanks, I would warmly like to welcome on stage the Secretary of the Faculty of Medicine Academic Sessions 2021, Dr. Achala Liyanage.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the organizing committee of FMAS 2021, I'm indeed honored and privileged to propose the vote of thanks at this inauguration ceremony of the 9th academic sessions of Faculty of Medicine, University of Ruhuna. The chief guest, Senior Professor Sujeev Amarasena, Vice Chancellor of University of Ruhuna. Dear sir, we are greatly honored and encouraged by your presence today. I would like to extend our sincere gratitude for all the support given to us and thank you for sparing your valuable time to be with us today. The keynote speaker of FMAS 2021, Dr. BJC Pereira, Specialist Consultant Pediatrician, Section Editor of Ceylon Medical Journal, and the Joint Editor, Sri Lanka Journal of Child Health. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation and being a key resource person in this event. Your presence is a glory. I'm also grateful to Emeritus Professor Mohan De Silva, University of Sri Jawadanapura, former Chairman of University Grants Commission, Sri Lanka, for accepting our invitation to deliver the FMAS oration. I'm sure it is an inspiration to both academics and the students of Faculty of Medicine. Professor Saman Chandanediriveera, Deputy Vice Chancellor, University of Ruhuna, thank you, sir, for gracing this occasion. The deans, council members, and the academic members, your presence is highly appreciated. My sincere thanks goes to all who worked hard to make this event a reality. Professor Vasant Devasiri, Dean, Faculty of Medicine, University of Ruhuna, dear sir, we highly value your leadership and guidance given throughout to make this event a reality. I take this opportunity to thank all the guest speakers of the symposium for the efforts taken to share their knowledge with us. I express my sincere gratitude to the judges and reviewers of the free papers and the chairpersons of today's academic program. Senior Assistant Registrar, Senior Assistant Bursa of the Faculty of Medicine, University of Ruhuna, thank you very much for all the groundwork done by you. Non-academic staff members, staff of the auditorium, maintenance, security and cleaning services for the helping hand extended towards us in numerous ways. My sincere thanks goes to Dr. Udumbara Sewandi Kumari for her beautiful performance adding glamour to this event, and Dr. Harshini Rajapaksha for the choreography of the cultural event. We are really grateful to the students who contributed in various ways to make this event a very attractive and memorable. Thank you very much, Isuri and Devni, for comparing, Heshan for designing the invitation, flyer, and the backdrop, students of the drama and music subcommittees of the Faculty Cultural Center for their creative performance, architecture and horticulture subcommittees, and the Explorers Club for the decorations, students involved in photography and ushering the event. Thank you very much. The brilliant committee members of FMAS 2021, it was really amazing. I must appreciate your untiring effort, dedication, and the commitment. Once again, thank you all for being the pillars of strength in this event of our faculty. There are so many of you who have worked tirelessly behind the scene to make this occasion a success. Thank you all for the support given. Finally, we extend our thanks to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here with us today, adding glamour to this event. Have a pleasant day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear madam. Ladies and gentlemen, now the time has paved the path to conclude the opening ceremony of FMAS 2021. So please all rise for the national anthem.
Sri Lanka Mata, Papa Sri අපගේ අනුප්‍රාණේ ඔබ අප ජීවනනේ අප මුක්තිය ඔබ වේ අප ජීවන දෙමිනේ නිදින අප පුබුදු කරන් මාතා ඥාන වීර්ය වඩවමින් රැගෙන යනු මන ජය භූමි කරා එක මවකගේ දරු කැළඹැවිනා යමු යමු වී නොපමා ප්‍රේම වඩා සැමදීද දුරැනදා නමෝ නමෝ මාතා අප ශ්‍රී ලංකා නමෝ 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 මාතා අප ශ්‍රී ලංකා නමෝ 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 මාතා.
Ladies and gentlemen, please keep standing till the ceremonial procession leaves the hall.
Ladies and gentlemen, there are some housekeeping announcements before winding up. Now you will have the tea break and the sessions will recommence at 11:40 a.m. Tea will be served to the invitees at the auditorium lobby and for the students at the first floor of the auditorium. Post sessions will be held during the tea break